name's Philip Konopka. I'm the ag agent for Lewis County.
And I'm Macy Fonz, I'm the horticulture agent for Mason County.
Well, Macy, we've got a bunch of interesting stuff right here in front of us. What are we going to talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about starting seeds indoors. So first off, we're going to look at ordering the seed. So, it might be early in the year and you might not be thinking about gardening at this point, but where do you even get started? We get a lot of seed catalogs in and, you're not sure what to order or even when to order it.
And not only seed catalogs, but the internet has opened up a bunch of different opportunities for some small homegrown growers as well. Some basic stuff that we need to look at. Seed packets. There's a lot of great information on seed packets, including zone. Look at the zone that you are living at and see if this particular plant is suited to grow in that zone. If it's not, then we probably don't need to be looking at that particular one.
Also, you want to look at, should the seed be started indoors or outdoors? If it's going to be started indoors, you need to look at the date that you need to start those and make sure that you follow those guidelines. So you don't want to start, for example, eggplant. You might not want to start it in April or May because by the time you get it outside, it might be too late to produce at that point. So you can look at that information on the seed packet. It also goes over the plant spacing. It goes over the days to sprout. So it's a really good amount of information that also includes the soil temperature for the germination.
All good information. You mentioned we don't get them out too earlier. We're really worried about that frost-free time period.
Mm-hmm.
And a great place to look up, at least in the state of Kentucky, is ID 128. In here is a wealth of information, including when our last predicted frost-free date would be for your area.
That's a good point. So now we've looked at our seed packets. We know that we want to order these and get them ordered early. So make sure that you go and get these seeds ordered early so you can get what you want. I really like going and ordering online because I can look for heirloom varieties and different things. But sometimes they run out early. So we have the seed packets down pat. What else do we need now?
If we're going to start seeds indoors, we need a basic kit here. This one's nothing real fancy. We need a light. This one is fluorescent, and this is called a grow light because it focuses more on the red and blue lights that the plant can really utilize to grow. We also need a good, clean container. This particular one has a cover on it, which is great to keep moisture in. There's a fine line we got to walk there. We don't want them swimming in it, but we don't want them to dry out real quick either. And this also adds heat to it too, as well.
What I also like about the setup we have here is that we have the tray that you're going to plant in, but below it has another tray, and you can put water in from below, and the plant's going to take up the water instead of watering on top. So you're going to have less disease occur that way, and overall, you're going to have better plants.
And these are nice commercial outfits that we can get, relatively inexpensive. But if you don't want to take the time, we've got some other options.
Mm-hmm.
You can use clay pots, styrofoam cups, plastic cups. Just make sure we've got some great drainage in those because we don't want them to be swimming in the water. And it's easier to overwater than you think.
Yes, I know whenever I've started seeds before, if you get too much water, you get little gnats that come around and they're really annoying. So that's something you have to be careful for is overwatering.
One other thing, we mentioned the light, and we don't need 24 hours of straight light because we're doing more harm than we are good. A good rule of thumb is about 16 hours. If you don't want to watch it 16 hours, go to your local department store, hardware store, and get you a timer that you can set, takes care of it automatically, and makes it more convenient.
Yes, you will burn up your plants if you keep it on 24 hours a day. If you're not ready to purchase a light, you can actually put the seeds into a windowsill. So you can take the tray, put it into the windowsill, and basically every day you're going to have to turn it a quarter. And that way the plants get all of the light that it can. So if you leave the tray in the same spot and then, want it to grow for the next month, the plant will actually grow toward the light and your plants will be crooked and they'll be very spindly. It's pretty hard to grow tomatoes, eggplant, pepper, anything like that in your windowsill. We really suggest trying to get a light.
She mentioned spindly plants, which means real tall, slender plants, and that's not a great thing to have.
No.
You can use those as kind of a judgment if you're getting enough light. If you are getting real tall, spindly plants that are falling over on each other, that's a real good indicator we don't have enough light. So we need to either move the window or add some extra supplemental lighting as well.
And the other thing we was talking about, eggplant, peppers, those are early plants. If you put those in your windowsill, just be careful because sometimes the cool air can come in. You don't want your temperatures to drop below 50 degrees. Your house is going to be warmer than that, but if that cool breeze is coming in directly onto your seed tray, it can cool it and can kill your plants as well. Another thing is we talked a little bit about water, but you want to make sure to have plenty of water into your seedlings, but you can add fertilizer. You have a starter fertilizer that you can actually add into the water.
But be very careful with when you're using fertilizer. A little bit goes a long way,
Yes.
especially when these plants are small, and we don't want to burn them. We can physically burn them with the fertilizer as a salt burn.
Yes, so we can add the fertilizer. Just be careful. Follow the recommendation on the label. If you have too much water, you're going to see those gnats. And also you might start to see a green layer of algae come on top of the soil. That's when you know that you need to cut back on the water and let that dry out a little bit. So Philip, we talked about our water and our seed packets. What about the soil media?
A great commercial mix is pretty inexpensive, and it's a pretty good way to go. Don't get the real cheap ones because there's usually a lot of coarse, not real fine particles. And when we're dealing with seed and seedlings, we don't want a real coarse material. We want something that's real fine, that's not going to block the plant from coming up through the soil surface. Also, a little trick, if we've got them inside, is to add some supplemental heat. This is a fancy heat pad that we can get at your local store or off the internet. I don't know the value of this particular one, but I don't think it's really expensive.
No.
One of the quick tips that you can do if you've got your refrigerator and don't have a lot of clutter on top of it, you can sit the tray up there until the seeds start sprouting, because seeds don't actually have to have sunlight to germinate.
So we can set them on top of the refrigerator, let them sprout, and then we need to get them to a light source.
Light source.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So once our plants start growing, typically you can find how long they need to be indoors before you take them out, but you can't take them straight outside and expect them to live. They're in your house, they're used to the warm temperature, they don't have the direct sunlight on them. Philip, what do we need to do before we take them out?
We need to kind of break them into it. We don't need to expose them to the world all at once. A good cold frame that we can have
that's a
outside.
good point.
We have plans here at the extension office to do that.
So this takes a little bit more labor, but when we have our plants started here at our office, we will actually take them outside the first day that they need. That we're getting ready to put them in the ground in a couple weeks. We will take them outside for an hour the first day and just let them get used to it. Sometimes they'll even wilt over because they're not used to it, and we'll bring them back in. So every day we'll increase that a little bit longer, maybe 2 or 3 hours. And then basically by the time we want to plant, we're going to have at least 1 to 2 weeks from the time that we're wanting to plant, and we're going to start the hardening off process. So you're taking it inside and outside until it gets completely used to outdoors. So if I wanted to take it outdoors the first day and it's really windy, I might not do that. I might wait until it's a little bit of calmer day. But that is a cheaper solution, but it does take a lot of labor.
What's this calendar here that's sitting in front of us here, Mason?
So this is our calendar we have available here at the extension office. And it just goes over what you should be doing each month within your garden. So it also has some great tips. So for the month of January, it might be talking about how to plan out your garden. And it goes over week by week. You can have your little garden notes here to talk about the layout of it and the test that you might do within your garden. So if you have old seed and you're not sure if they're going to germinate, you can actually have a germination test, and you can keep track through this calendar. So every month has little tips, and it has a place for you to write so that you can track the progress of your garden. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, you can visit your local extension office.